Hello, welcome back. I'm out in my garden on a beautiful spring morning. It's still spring, but only just. Summer is just around the corner, but we've had this slight cool change and a bunch of rain. So my garden is boggy and wet and weedy, all the things that happen with rain. But I am this morning going to try and get some seeds in the ground. We're going to do okra and if I get to it, corn, cowpeas, and I don't know if I'll get to tomatoes. I've got a few tomatoes that are ready to go on the trellis. But my aim and what I'm going to do with these is use some layering, some stratification in the garden. And I have talked a little bit about that on here before. Where we're using some of the principles of syntropic agriculture, which is sort of agroforestry, and it has been used really successfully in a lot of arid lands to help create microclimates, build soil, and grow food where it can be tough to grow food. Now, it is not arid here. We have plenty of water, but it does get really, really hot. And what we found helpful in Australia is to use a layering of the plants so they have 4 different categories, broadly speaking. You have emergent crops, which shoot out really high and tall, high, medium, and low, which is sort of your ground covers. And in syntropic agriculture, they use trees. And they have different stages. So they plant the trees and then they do layering underneath the trees. A big part of it is building the soil, because soil health is huge when it comes to the resilience of the garden and on a larger scale of growing crops and things. But so the different stages of syntropic agriculture, the first one is the placenta stage, which is really when you're just starting out. So you don't have big trees, you're just beginning to plant things. And then it goes stage 1, stage 2 as the trees grow. So in the home garden, what I do is I basically use some of the principles that I used in the placenta stage, because it's the beginning. There's no big trees, which I don't, you have big trees growing in the garden, but I can use those principles to help support our plants during the heat of the summer. So that is what I'm going to try and do today. Now, the reason I'm standing here near our little banana trees, which are coming back after the cold winter, is that we use banana trees a lot. We did in our garden in Australia, to both provide shade, but also to chop and drop the leaves for ground cover and to feed the soil. They're really good for that. Now, we probably may not get a crop from them here. It's too cold in the winter, but we can still use them to grow their leaves and for shade. So it's a bit of an experiment to see how they go here in Texas, but they certainly are multiplying from what we had last year. So in Australia, we lived on the border of, our zone was almost semi-arid and tropical. We were sort of right on the border of those two zones, and we had long periods of dry, really hot weather, but then we would get seasons of tropical storms come through. So that was the zone we were in there. The difficulty or the challenge with gardening in that area was intense heat over the summer period. And we had people say to us, oh, you can't grow a garden through the middle of summer in the Clermont area because it's just too hot. So you would have like weeks of 41, 42 degrees Celsius, which is, I'll double check this, but I think it's up around 110. It's very, very hot. And we tried anyway using some of these principles, and we found that when we did that, we were able to grow a really lush, productive garden through the middle of summer. we did have to water it a lot. We could not rely on rainfall. There just wasn't enough rainfall. There was about half the rainfall that we get here in East Texas. I think it was roughly 23 inches annually in the area we came from, and I think it's like 45 plus inches here. So we get way more rain here. But we have had people say the same thing to us here. You can't grow a garden through the middle of summer. Everything just withers and dies. It's too hot. And that may be so. And I'm certainly not saying, oh, well, if you do it this way, you can grow a garden no matter what, because I don't know. But we're going to try it, and we're just going to see if we can have success, see how much we can extend the season. It is going to be an experiment using some of the things we learnt back home and seeing if they work here. I don't know, we'll see. So like I said, the placenta phase of the syntropic system is before you have big trees. Now what we did in our Australian garden was to grow a row of bananas, and then that created the backdrop for a garden bed in front, and another big part in front of it, so it provided shade, and we also would chop and drop the banana leaves, which would feed the soil, and then we grew, so the bananas were your emergent layer, super tall, and then we had or like a canopy, I guess, in a rainforest, and then we had sunflowers and tomatoes, which were a high level, and then we grew other lower vegetables and herbs and things and flowers underneath. So we're going to try that idea, that principle here in my row garden. I did do it to a degree last year, and it definitely helped. We grew peppers and parsley. I'm just trying to think what else I put underneath the okra last year, and that definitely extended the season and helped it weather the summer. But that was our first season here, and so, you know, we're still very much in the learning phase. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to, because tomatoes, if you've been here for a little while, you know I'm no tomato expert. I am learning with tomatoes. I've just grown a few. I've never had space to grow a whole bunch until now. And also I've grown them with mixed success. Oh, say that fast. So what I had the idea of doing was to use this whole idea of stratification in our garden and put okra in between the tomatoes, because I know it's going to shoot up and grow like a tree. So if I put it to provide some shade for the tomatoes, we're going to try that. And on this row here, I'm going to put okra and cowpeas, and the cowpeas will handle the heat no problem at all, but I want to sort of combine as many things as I can in the rows to increase our production. So that will also, in the late afternoon, if the okra grows up really tall here, so the sun comes over here, so in the late afternoon our sun is over here, so then the okra can provide shade to these green beans here, or whatever I have in this row. And I will put some okra down through the tomatoes to hopefully do the same thing. So we're going to see how we go. This will be an experiment, and we can keep a track of what happens. And just quickly regarding the okra, I saved a bunch of okra seeds last season. Jess from Roots and Refuge had given me some beautiful, they were like a red heirloom variety. Plus I had some of my ones that I had bought, which were a green, just a green okra, and I saved a ton of them. Do you think I can find those seeds? No, no, I can't. I have hunted high and low all over the house. I looked through the pantry and the larder. I've looked under beds. I'm like, where did I put the okra seeds? And I can't find them. So I'm sure they're going to show up. But either that or I somehow, like, we accidentally threw them out at some point. Maybe they were in a box. I really don't know what happened. But anyway, my mother-in-law came to the rescue and bought me some new okra seeds. They love their okra. Nini and Papo love okra. Like, I'm talking big time love okra. So I have got to make sure I've got okra growing for them. And so I'm going to put these ones in. This is what she bought me. And hopefully, I don't know, if those other ones show up, I will put some of those red ones in, because they are just, they're not only, like, they're really yummy, but they're an heirloom variety. So I know that, like, I can save the seeds without any worry. I do not know that these are. It doesn't say they are, so they're probably not. But they were beautiful. They were just so pretty. I loved having them in the garden. But anyway, we shall see. I will put some of these in. Okay, so this is an old vanilla bean little container that I kept and thought it would be good to save seeds in. So I'll put them periodically down this row. Someone interrupted my milking. Just where do you think you're off to? There you go. Go find somewhere else to be. I had a local visitor come and interrupt my milking. This is when you know you're in deep East Texas. Okay, back from milking. I'm going to finish this row. Okay, well, it's all in the ground. So now it is up to the raindrops and the sunshine to do its thing. So hopefully we'll get a good crop. The other place I am planning to sort of use these ideas, and when I say that, I really use these ideas and thoughts and the kind of principle of creating little microclimates and using a lot of diversity in the garden and planting lots of different layers or stratification or whatever you want to call it. I use that idea all throughout my garden, which is why I do a lot of random planting that might look a little chaotic or messy. But the idea behind it is that with the more diversity you have and the more layers you have and the more, really it's amazing how closely together you can grow plants. Like I could, if I had, really it's just a time issue. If I had the time, I could plant down the side of this some quick growing, quick yielding crops such as, let's see, like radish, which grows really quick, or other herbs and things that are going to come up quickly and be harvested before these get too high, especially like even with the height, the okra can still have a lot of things growing under it. I had peppers, jalapenos, herbs growing under throughout the entire season. I guess with the cowpeas at some point they will kind of take over because they get so big and viney. But up until they get to a certain size, you could have a lot of other things growing in and around and under them. So that's, you know, kind of the idea. Now, I am thinking, I was going to put, I'll show you this really quickly, because I came out the other day racing the storm, which seems to be what I do. Hey, I just race the storm all the time. But I planted a bunch of pumpkin. I did not have time to till this. I had the red tarp over it for a few weeks, and it hasn't killed back the grass entirely, but it certainly kind of put a halt on it. And my initial intention was to till this area, turn it over, plant corn and with pumpkin underneath. Now, I was short on manpower and short on hours. And I thought, well, rather than just not get to it at all, I ran out and sowed a whole bunch of pumpkin seeds throughout here, and we'll just see what happens. Like, I just put them in the ground, prayed over them, and it's like, do your thing, grow fiercely. So we'll see what happens. I mean, they will be competing to some degree with the weeds. My initial intention was to grow the corn there. So I am thinking with regard to the corn that I might put a few rows of it. Let me see if I can show you. Over here where I took the garlic out. Now it's only about that bed there. It's about a 3-foot bed. So I can maybe get 3 across with the corn, because I know it needs to be able to sort of bunch together to pollinate properly. Look how much water we have here, which is the advantage of raising these up into rows, because this area just holds so much water. So I hope it's okay. I hope I've got the potatoes high enough. So my thought, actually, I also have some cream peas, which are just beautiful. They're an heirloom variety that a friend gave me, and I'm thinking of planting them under the corn, because, yeah, and because I just think that might be a way of using that whole layering effect. Now this sad weedy looking row here is where I had the tomato failure. So I mentioned before, and I've potted up, I'll show you in a second, I've potted up a heap of the Roma tomatoes that were just tiny, and I've got them outside so they're sort of in dappled light right now, and I'll move them into full sun before I put them out here. Lesson learned. And I'm going to plant okra in between. So hopefully the okra will grow up here and it'll do 2 things. It'll provide shade for the Roma tomatoes directly underneath it, but it will provide some shade as they get big for these tomatoes that are going to grow up on the trellis. I mean, there are 100 things I could be doing today in the garden. I am doing what I can to get started, but another thing I am trying to just keep in balance is I'm here with my littles this week, and I don't want to miss the opportunity to take time with them to do the things that one-on-one that we don't usually get to do, that they would like to do with mummy. So, you know, one example of that is, and they do bake with me, but it's just a novelty for them to be more one-on-one, just them in the house with me and no one else. So I don't want to miss that opportunity. So I am going to not do today some of the things that I feel like are screaming at me out of the garden. But you know what? There will be lots of seasons of gardening, and I will do my very best to get in here to this, but not at the expense of the time I really want to invest in my little ones right now. So we are going to do some baking. We are going to, Gracie has been watching Anne of All Trades, and she really wants to do some carving. So I am going to, we bought her a little carving kit on Amazon, just a really little beginner one. So we're going to sit and see if we can figure some of that out together. And we have a friend coming over this morning, and my plan is to get back in the garden this afternoon, but we will see how she blows. That's the plan. Let me show you the Roma tomatoes. Oh, and before I do, I just used this stick, which I don't know why I'm still carrying it, but I used it to dig a little like 1-inch hole or a bit deeper to put the okra seeds and the cowpeas in, which did a wonderfully miraculous job at saving my fingers from fire ants, because the fire ants are everywhere, and this, at least this, meant that I didn't get eaten alive while I was planting, so that was good. All right, let's have a look at these tomatoes. On our way there, we must stop and look at beautiful flowers that are growing in the garden. Look at this cute little blue one just coming out, kind of a bluish purple. It's kind of fun watching. And I put a cucumber here, just an extra couple of seeds. They're flowering. I'm hoping they'll grow up this fence. Some orange cosmos. That is a beautiful shade of orange. Look at that. Hello, lovely. Oh, you've got a little creature on you. A little spider, I think. Parsley all gone to seed. There's just nothing like seeing a splash of colour in the garden. I don't know if you can see, the grass is like so out of control right now. It's crazy. But it's been too wet to get out here with a mower. It's still really boggy underfoot right now. So lovely. Okay, so these tomatoes, I have had these out here hardening up for 5 days now. I started them over here, which is in dappled shade underneath these shrubs and little trees, and then I moved them out here where they are getting more full sun. And this is all of the Roma tomatoes that I potted up yesterday. So I'm putting them here in the dappled light, and when they get a little bit hardier, maybe in a day or two, I'll move them out into full sun, and these ones I'll plant out on the trellis. These are the indeterminate tomato varieties that I'm going to put on the trellis. Well, some of them at least. Also hardening off these tomatoes, and this is the hollyhocks that sprouted, and I'm trying to harden them off. I don't know, I feel like they're looking a little anemic. I hope they're okay. I've never grown them before, and they just look a little bit too weak to go out yet. So I'm hoping that by putting them out in the dappled light here, and then I'll put them in more sun before I put them out. I hope that works. Fingers crossed. Okay folks, well, I'm going to head inside with my littles and enjoy the day. Let me know in the comments below if you have ever used syntropic agriculture, syntropic farming, or those principles in your garden. I would really love to know. And I am keen to know if this works in America. It worked really well in Australia, so we'll give it a go, and I will keep you posted. But I'd love to hear from you guys about it. They're very similar principles. I think there's a lot of overlap with permaculture, and it's just about supporting the plants with what the plants need naturally in a natural environment. I think building the soil is key. There should be, for everything you see growing above the soil, there should be just as much life and, you know, the interwebbing of all of the roots and the good bacteria under the soil. All of that should be just as alive as what's above the ground. And I think when you can use diversity and when you can use a lot of feeding the soil with chopping and dropping different plants as you go, then that really helps. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on these matters. Oh, excuse the build, there's a deconstruction project going on here. I'll tell you about that soon. All right, friends, thanks for being here. If you haven't, please subscribe and like. It really does make a difference, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Sunshine and raindrops. Until next time.